Hello, and welcome to The Case Plays, where I take a look at a game in an effort to help you decide whether or not it's worth buying. Today, we'll be looking back at Destiny. For those of you who don't know, Destiny is a quasi-MMO FPS hybrid developed by Bungie, the team originally behind the massively successful Halo series. Now, before I get started, I should point out that this game is nearly 2 years old, and so this isn't going to be a review. Therefore, I will be skipping over aspects of the game that aren't pertinent to the topic of this video. And with that out of the way, let's get started. With the launch of the latest Destiny expansion, Rise of Iron, on the horizon, I thought it might be a good time to take a look back on the history of the game so far. My intention is to give both returning players and newcomers an idea of what to expect from Destiny as we move into its third year, as well as to help give you an idea of whether or not Rise of Iron will be worth the cost of entry.
Quiet. They're right above us.
In full disclosure, I myself have been a dedicated player of the game since its initial launch back in September of 2014, and I have since formed my own clan and coordinated regular raiding groups. So it's safe to say that I have a good deal of experience with Destiny. Destiny was a game that was hyped for years, going as far back as Halo 3 ODST with an Easter egg saying, "Destiny is waiting." Developed by the mastermind team behind Halo, everyone seemed convinced that no matter what state the game was actually released in, it was bound to be great. Except that it really wasn't.
Is it possible?
Upon release, fans immediately noticed the poorly written narrative, or lack thereof, and the stilted voice acting, all of which was surprising considering that the story had been penned by Joseph Staten, the lead writer from the Bungie-led Halo games, and had a cast including the likes of Nathan Fillion, Bill Nighy, Lauren Cohen, and of course, Peter Dinklage.
This should lead us right to the grave. The world's grave, not ours.
In its earliest state, Destiny arguably could have been considered a gambling simulator, with its main focus being on grinding for encrypted grams, or engrams for short, which you then decrypted into items of whatever rarity the grams were. Only legendary engrams could turn into rares, or even uncommons. What the actual fuck, Bungie? Many players even turned to using loot caves in order to speed up the whole disappointing process.
We can come back for them when you're ready. Let's get you home.
Loot caves, for those of you who don't know, were places where players could spend hours grinding for engrams by killing wave after wave of enemies as they continuously respawned. Sounds like a lot of fun, doesn't it? Well, until Bungie patched them all out of the game, that is. On top of this, Destiny had an extremely frustrating light level system, which meant that your character's physical stats were dictated by their gear. And if you later found gear that you wanted to wear because it looked cooler, but it was a lower light level than what you already had, well then you were fucked. Because you had to wear the strongest gear in order to be able to do any of the higher level activities. And there was no way to increase the light level of weaker gear. Then, couple these things with the aforementioned issues with acting and narrative, and you can understand why many players were more than a little disappointed with the game at launch. I myself was one of these players, though that never kept me from continuing to play the game. I distinctly recall completing the final campaign mission and thinking out loud, "What? That's it? I don't think anyone expected the final boss to just be 3 carbon copies of a boss that you had already defeated a few missions earlier. I know I didn't. To me, Destiny was a grand setting with loads of potential, filled with a slew of generic fetch and defend missions with no real direction, but was ultimately held up by its superb shooting mechanics, which alone kept me playing the game.
Look at him.
Now, the reasons for all of these issues later came to light. About a year before the game officially released, Bungie actually fired Joseph Staten because the bigwigs at Activision didn't like the direction of the story that he had put together for the game. The official statement was that the story was too linear, and the developers wanted players to be able to explore the game world at will and make their own stories. But we know the real reason, don't we?
No. Tell him we don't like it.
Well, sir, we've been working on this for years.
Actually, you can just fire him.
Who's going to write the story?
Who's gonna write the story? Who needs a story when you can just make your own? In fact, cut out half the missions and release them later as DLC.
But what about our integrity?
The hell is integrity? Integrity? You should have thought about that before you signed our contract. Now get back to work. Integrity. Where's my dictionary?
So naturally, over the course of the game's first year, Bungie released 2 expansions that were comprised largely of areas and assets that were already available in the game. Though some of it had previously been unpopulated and locked off from player access through regular means of entry. And of course, they pushed a season pass at the game's launch to get people to go ahead and give them money for these DLC releases before their content had even been announced. Then, once the content was actually announced, Activision and Bungie acted as though all of it was going to be totally new and fresh. It was only after the players started exploring some glitches that allowed them to enter locked off areas that we discovered the truth. However, I did appreciate that Bungie had begun adding narrative to the gameplay with these expansions, though it was admittedly awkward and even cringeworthy at times.
Skolas jamming signals with high servitors. Reef war tactic. Advanced warfare. Mayful Petra does not fool me. I shall be your guide.
Whereas before, majority of the narrative came from the loading screens before and after a mission.
There's so little left out here. We were lucky to even find this ship. A Guardian can't do much to protect the city without one. But it needs a warp drive if we ever hope to fight beyond Earth. And that Cosmodrome is the only place I know where we might still find one. We survived the Fallen once. We can do it again.
Or from the affectionately coined Dinklebot.
It worked. You're alive. You don't know how long I've been looking for you.
Eyes up, Guardian.
Even more frustratingly, players had no understanding of why we were doing anything. Our motivation basically went like this: kill aliens because aliens are bad and are trying to take over the solar system for some reason. Kill Crota because at some undisclosed point in the past, he killed some people and now he wants to take control of the solar system for some reason. Kill Skolas because he betrayed the Queen of the Reef and he wants to take over the solar system for some reason. The game just didn't seem to care enough to explain anything to us, which was especially frustrating considering how intriguing and interesting many of the players, including myself, found the setting to be. Bungie's whole approach to presenting Destiny's narrative in the first year made the game feel like all of the great stories had already been told and your character was just jumping into the aftermath. And this feeling was only further compounded by the fact that none of the game's backstory was actually available in the game, but rather through the Grimoire cards on Bungie's website. I'm all for expanding a game's lore through collectible items, but I shouldn't have to exit the game and go to the website in order to experience that content. Seriously, Bungie, put that shit in the game! But anyway, it really wasn't until The Taken King came out that we even felt the presence of a threat, or any real motivation to defeat the bad guy. But finally, Destiny had a real villain for us to hate.
Their leaders belong to you. The rest await extermination. No. Gather them. I will take them all.
We even finally got some cutscenes with actual character development for some of the NPCs who had, up until then, simply been glorified quest givers.
Our Guardian got a good look on Phobos. Whatever it was, it turned Cabal against Cabal, wiped out their base in minutes. How long would we last?
Until we understand what we're dealing with.
They are taken.
Eris, get your rock off my map.
Though our characters had become eerily silent, which made many of these moments feel a bit awkward as well.
It only took one blast from the Dreadnought.
When you're through, it'll never fire again. Just don't forget to plant the transmat link so other Guardians can land. Not everybody's got stealth tech and a ship that smells like Hive. Good luck, Guardian.
Activating stealth drive.
And, in an attempt to appease fans of the game, Bungie completely replaced Peter Dinklage with voice acting veteran Nolan North. Now, you may recognize him from roles such as Desmond Miles and Nathan Drake. However, rather than satisfy fans who thought that Dinklage's performance was lackluster, it simply proved that the problem was never with the acting in the first place, but rather with the game's writing, as many of North's readings were just as cringeworthy as Dinklage's had been.
This should lead us right to the grave. The world's grave, not ours.
In fact, this becomes even more apparent when you compare what we got at the game's release to some of Dinklage's performances from the E3 gameplay reveal in 2013.
We always visit such cheerful places. Oh, it looks even better up here. We'll need more light to find a way across. Hang tight, I'll find some sticks to rub together. And by sticks, I mean highly complex circuits that I am fully equipped to repair, revive, and otherwise.
Where is that? I want that in the game. It's genuinely funny, and Peter Dinklage even sounds like he cares about his fucking character. Then, they even went on to tweak nearly all of the game's features, changing everything from the way bounties were turned in, to the layout of the in-game inventories, to the overall look and feel of the HUD. They even removed the controversial light level system in favor of a physical level system with a light counter that indicates the overall strength of your gear, which was a very welcome change for most players. It even seemed like Bungie wanted us to know that they were aware of the game's shortcomings in its first year, as they released a mission that tricks you into thinking that it's another boring fetch quest, and suddenly turns the tables on you at the last second, to then reveal that you're only halfway done.
No matter. Return to me, Guardian, and we will destroy.
Guardian, we're losing you. Guardian, can you hear me?
Lost them. Something's blocking our signal and our transmit.
Infection. Your light dies here.
There's even another mission that has you sneaking around enemies while cloaked in a way very similar to the active camouflage from the Halo series. Now, whether these changes and additions actually made the game any better was certainly up to debate, but either way, it was clear that Bungie was putting far more effort into giving the players what they wanted. However, with all that effort put into fixing the game, we had to have known something bad was on the way. And in came microtransactions. One of the vendors from the original game, who had only been there to keep track of exclusive in-game offers and pre-order bonuses that you had unlocked, had been mysteriously absent during the weeks leading up to the Taken King's launch. Then, shortly after its launch, she had returned as a microtransaction vendor. Exchange your real-life money for in-game currency called silver to buy emotes for your characters and horn sounds for your sparrow. Admittedly, many of these emotes are actually pretty entertaining. But is a single one worth $2 or even $5? Normally, I wouldn't look at this like such a terrible thing. The items are all totally cosmetic, as they have no effect on your character's stats, and so it's really no worse than Call of Duty's weapon skins. I figured it would just be something we would have to live with, but that it wouldn't really be a problem. Except, as more and more people spent money on these things, Bungie got a bit bolder with what they were willing to sell, and so they added an item called Spark of Light to the store for $30. And what does this $30 get you? Instant increase to level 26, as well as a set of level 26 gear for your character. Now granted, max level is 40, so you still have to work your way from level 26 to level 40 before you can start doing in-game content. However, this Spark of Light allows you to skip all of the year 1 content for Destiny. Not only is this literally the definition of paying to win, but it's outright extortion. They want 3/4 of what it now costs to buy the whole game with all the DLC included, just to skip nearly half of what you just bought. So you can jump straight to the year 2 content? That's some shitty shit, even for Activision. However, if you get past all the shady business practices and the lack of narrative overall, Destiny can still be a really satisfying experience. Whether it's the skyboxes, the weapon designs, or the multiplayer map layouts, you can tell that a lot of love went into designing this game. Hell, the shooting is the best feeling shooting I've seen in a console game to date. I'm surprised more games haven't started copying it. Now, a thumbstick will never be able to match the precision of a mouse, but damn it, Destiny comes really close. In fact, the fluidity and precision of Destiny's controls has just about ruined every other console shooter for me. And this is in no small part due to its excellently crafted aim assist that never feels invasive and always makes it feel like you're in complete control of your character's actions. It's just a shame that after about 20 hours of gameplay, depending on how long it takes you to raid, you will have seen just about everything that this game has to offer. Yes, even after the Taken King expansion. Normally, 20 hours is great for a shooter, but for a game that wants to have a living world and a 10-year plan, that's nothing. And that's the problem with Destiny. Despite how well constructed everything is, there just isn't enough content to go around. But that's really where the game gets you. Everyone in the existing player base knows that there's a severe lack of content, and they just don't care. The content that's there is good enough in their eyes to keep Destiny fans engaged and replaying it. And I know, between PlayStation and Xbox, I've put around 1,500 hours into this game since its release. Destiny had most certainly sunk its claws into me. For a long time, it was the only game I played. And looking back, I can tell you that it wasn't because I was having fun. Yes, The game can be extremely fun when it's running on all cylinders. But when I think back on how I felt playing the game, it was more like I needed to play than I wanted to play. I didn't play because it was fun. I played because I needed to collect everything, and I needed to get the highest scores in every activity that I could play. I needed to play because I was addicted to Destiny's loot system. I kept coming back because there was always one more piece of gear to collect. So I guess what I'm saying is, looking back over the course of the past couple of years, Destiny may have changed a lot on the surface, but underneath it all, it's still just a gambling simulator with only one goal in mind: take your money.
Integrity, integrity, integrity. Ah, here we go. Ooh, that cost me money. Yeah, fuck that. You see, I told you it would work. Hey, go make me some more emotes.
Now stop, thank you very much.
I'm gonna be so rich.
So the question is, despite all of this nonsense, is Destiny still worth your money? Well, that's up to you. As for me, I'm done with the game. If you're interested in learning more about the insanity going on during the making of Destiny, definitely check out these videos by B. Dobbins. It's some really interesting stuff. I'll also put some links in the description to the original Kotaku articles on the subject, for those of you who prefer to read. But really, who prefers to read? My wife is gonna kill me for saying that. And if you're interested in a more in-depth look at the game when it first released, you can check out this review by Angry Joe. Just keep in mind that the game has changed a lot since then. Well, that's it for now. Hit that thumbs up if you liked the video, or if you didn't like it, the thumbs down is right there. Subscribe if you want to see more, and as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on The Case Plays. Fuck this game.